Welcome again. We want to welcome everyone to another edition of my Lutheran Connections. Again, we say thank you for being here with us. Sorry that we are starting late today. Our guest could not be with us. Sorry for the interruption. Our guest could not be with us today due to some issues back home in Liberia, especially with the network situation. So we are going to have a great show today. Now, we're going to have a great show. What's your say? What do you make of the first public appearance of Bishop Padmore, the Bishop of the Lutheran Church in Liberia? Today, we are going to be having a conversation, cross discussion on our Bishop's first appearance. And we are going to also be, inviting our viewers from the very onset of our show. So we're going to be inviting you very early to share your opinion on what our Bishop, our Bishop on his appearance. So today with us we have our brother Josiah Joka. He's there with us in Dennisbury, Connecticut. Um, our brother Batam Ibelewoli is back there in Monrovia, Liberia, and our ambassador Jerry Tablo is going to be joining us from his temporary studios there in Monrovia. And I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I just want to say good evening and welcome to the team, brother Lewoli and brother Joka. How are you all doing?
Thank you, Willie. It's a pleasure to be with you again tonight. Joe, it's nice seeing you.
Hey, Abel, yeah, it's great seeing you, especially so with the difficulties people having with the internet in Liberia. You are one of the lucky few to be on. My understanding is that Jerry is also in Monrovia. He's visiting, and he's also on. He will be coming back on shortly. He was on with us not too long. Willie, it's nice seeing you again. I hope Georgia is hot like Connecticut. We are in the 80s today. Tomorrow we want to be in the 80s, but Tuesday is going to be very hot and humid here. We'll be in the 90s on Tuesday. So we're enjoying the weather. I hope Atlanta is also doing great. If
I
my
think
understanding is there's Renee Monrovia, Jerry, the ambassador. I'm told it's Renee Monrovia. Is that true?
Yeah,
My
it's
brother,
crowded. It's crowded up here, and you are talking about being a little bit stable today. Trust me, I had a fast and prayer last night about the internet. Maybe that's why God is blessing me on this side. So I'm ready good tonight.
And
I
Jerry,
said
how
for
come?
people who are
How
coming
come
back
if
tonight.
Jerry is doing good with the internet too, and Jerry is visiting? He doesn't really live in Monrovia. Jerry, what? I mean, you did magic. How come, Jerry?
I pray for him too. I also pray for Jerry. I pray for Dara as well, but I
you
don't
know,
know.
you know, Willie
yeah.
is a very, very prophetic guy. Willie told me not to talk too hard. And as
I
soon
told
as
you.
you were getting on, you noticed that I was I was not on because they just took the light.
Wow.
And then
Okay.
logging in finally the light came back anyway.
So
Um, so well, our guest just called and said that unfortunately he cannot. Yeah, so
yeah, I mean it's very unfortunate, and also I just want to inform our viewers that he tried every effort. I mean, the most strenuous effort. He tried every effort. Yes, he tried by all means to be on the show.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, we all know brother Kokoya, senior brother Dala Kokoya. Um, he is so whenever he commits to doing something, he puts his all into it. He did try. He tried every effort to appear. So unfortunately today he's not going to be with us. But again, like we said, we're going to have a great show. We're going to have a great show.
Right.
Bijo, you talked about weather today. We hit in the 90s, so you were there in the
Oh
80s. That's
my
fine.
God.
Yeah, and I told the ambassador don't say too much because you have two things fighting against. You are in the LEC territory, and also, so don't say too much, Ambassador. Don't say too much of where you are. Okay, don't say too much.
Ambassador,
But
you got to heed to the advice. Don't
you
say
gotta
too
heed to
much.
that
You
advice,
are in the
Ambassador.
LEC
Heed to the advice.
territory,
Don't say too
okay?
much.
And
But
Abel is also praying for you, all
Abel
right?
is praying
So
for you. He's
you
fasting
are
and
very
praying.
lucky.
Absolutely.
You're very lucky.
Abel is not fasting
Folks,
alongside
folks,
our Lutheran church.
welcome once more to the Lutheran Connections discussion. Today's Sunday, as usual, we are here every Sunday at this hour, discussing all things Lutheran. Here we secure the fights beyond emotions, and we just like to encourage everyone to stay tuned. Today will also be fabulous. We anticipated having Dala Kokoya, one of the resource for persons in the Lutheran Church in Liberia. As a matter of fact, he is the chairperson of the parish council at the cathedral of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. Even though I took my membership away, but I still recognize St. Peter's as the cathedral of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. And he's doing extremely well in terms of his leadership. Dala made every effort. In fact, let me just let you know that Dala went as far as coming outside of his house in the rain just to look for network to be on the show tonight. That's how far he went. But we promised to reschedule so that we can have Dala sit with us and have a conversation about our church, some of the things he has done, and some of the things he's doing at the level of St. Peter's, and then what he thinks needs to be done, for the forward march of our church. So absolutely, we look forward to having Dala. I think Willie, Ambassador, and Abel, our other schedule we have for Sunday, we have to push it back just to have the parish council chair next Sunday. We should do our best just to. I'm sorry if I'm undercutting you guys, but let's do our best to have him next Sunday to come on. Let's just secure the space for Dala next Sunday by all means.
Why,
To come
why,
on.
why is the Reverend laughing? Bijo,
We
sorry,
want
to
to
interrupt, Bijo.
we
Why the
want to
Reverend is laughing?
welcome the Reverend. I really hope he had not come today. I wanted him to have some network issues so that he doesn't come on today. Because I really want to have this show freely. I don't want to be concerned and careful about the kind of dictions or expressions I'm going to be using. I don't want some ecclesiastical punishment. So I really did not think the Reverend was good. But however, I can control that. Reverend, you are most welcome to your favorite show.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to be here. I knew obviously I was behind time, but I'm glad to be here. But technically, I'm not here for you today, Joe. I'm actually here for my own big brother, Patan, because he just need to let us know if the single problem in Monrovia has stopped him from changing his background, so we can help with the situation because yeah. I don't know, but it's good to have all of you. I know Jerry told us he was going to be in Monrovia.
Jerry is in Monrovia.
And Jerry's in
And
Monrovia.
he was just officially welcome, Reverend. Jerry was just welcome while we were talking in the background before the start of the show. They took his light away.
So Jerry is in Monrovia and has this background. I don't know what my own big brother Patan will not have the background reflected. So Patan, we can all chip in and send you some small.
I need to. Yeah, I need to shift the whole thing to the chief technician. Willie have refused to get this man background fixed, and I think he should be responsible for this. Honestly.
Okay, folks. That was just a humorous part of it.
There are a couple of things, gentlemen. There are a couple of things here. Honestly, if you are not out of electricity, you'll be out of internet. If you can get a tool like I'm having tonight, you don't expect me to have a good background. Honestly.
Go ahead, Bijo.
We understand, Abel, but that is not a good justification. Anyway, we understand that. Well, folks, we'd like to welcome you to my Lutheran Connections discussion, your favorite show. Here we talk all things Lutheran. We secure the fights beyond emotion, and we ask you to stay tuned. Today is also going to be fabulous. We're going to be looking at the bishop's first appearance, and basically we're going to have you have your say today. So Willie is going to put the numbers up immediately. And then we will have you call in at any point in time. We will be giving our own views, our own opinions about what we think of the some of the things that the bishop said here on the show for a start of his leadership. We know that the bishop appear with questioning on so many thematic issues relative to the growth and development of our church. We talk about education, and under education, we talk about the Lutheran Training Institute, an institution that I hold so dearly, that I also attended. We talk about the Lutheran University, the prospects. The bishop talked about that. The bishop by himself emphasized the issue of secondary education, the importance to providing solid secondary education as the basis for attaining quality tertiary education. And he was trying to link that with the establishment of the Lutheran University and what that would mean, for the young people in the church and our boys and girls coming out of secondary schools, especially Lutheran schools. We talk about communication in the church. The bishop was very excited about that. He talked about the significance of communication and how that will even help, to support his plans for development in the church and working with the people, reconciling the people. That communication play a pivotal role in that respect. He touched on the Ludo FM project. He also touched on what we are doing here at Lutheran Connection discussion. Very impressively, he did. And then we also questioning on the issue of taking stock as to whether or not his leadership is interested for a start. By taking stock first. I know he played with the diction. Reverend asking about that. Reverend Yakbazua, Jerry also made a follow-up. I did a follow-up because of its importance. The bishop tried to record it as a verification exercise. But we actually jump in and emphasize that no matter how you put it, it is taking stock because you're looking back. And so he talked about taking stock. We will look into that. What do you feel about what the bishop said about taking stock, the way he intends to go about it? Basically using internal resources that we have in terms of expertise that we have to carry out that. We talk about healthcare institutions. The bishop also talked about the current Lutheran hospital. He talked about the Phoebe Hospital. He talked about the importance of revamping those institutions. These are some of the key things we talk about. It's more than that. My colleagues will also espouse on some of the things that the bishop talked about that's now on the list here with me right now. But those are some of the key things the bishop discussed during his time of sitting with us here on the show. Like I said, it promises to be fabulous as always. Willie is seated and ready. Jerry is seated and ready. Reverend is seated and ready. Abel is ready there in Monrovia. And you folks, we are waiting to hear from you. Just hit our phone line anytime. Willie is going to bring you in and you will have your say. So, Ambassador, let me go to you there in Freetown. You listen to some of the things that are highlighted in terms of the bishop discussion when he appeared last week. So it's up to you, Jerry.
Thank you, Big Joe. And let me remind us again that I'm actually in Liberia, Monrovia. I came to witness the retirement ceremony of my mother, Lulu C. Tabolo, and grandmother Sue B. Telewula from the Sunday school.
I think Jerry is having some connection issues there. We'll go over to Abel there in Monrovia. Abel, you can come in while we're waiting for Jerry to come back on. Abel, we can't hear you.
I was saying thank you ever so much, Joe. I think you just outlined some of the major talking points of the bishop last week, and there were a couple of good things that the bishop actually strikes on. But the first thing I want to say is that for the fact that the bishop was able to take take time out of his busy schedule to appear on my Lutheran Connections, a platform that kind of profile Lutherans, that Lutherans are so much eager to listen to. For me, that was a very bold step when it even comes to promoting education, for example. Let's say our communication within our church, because this is the most popular platform that Lutherans can boast of, in terms of watching, in terms of listening. For me, that step that the bishop took was actually good. Of course, other issues like reconciliation that we'll be doing more on later, the issue of education, considering the Lutheran Training Institute that we consider as the cradle of education in our church. It's very key that these institutions be restored. And when the bishops strike so much about the restoration of the Lutheran Training Institute, that I strongly believe got the capacity, or let's say the means of giving light to other Lutheran institutions. It's a very good way to go. Where he will talk about calling on the alumni association, both here and in the diaspora, who would come together to advance their idea. And Foley, Connors, and Joe, you are the product of the Lutheran Training Institute. This institution started operating in the 1940s to the 50s. They have produced some of the great sons and daughters of this country. They are everywhere across the world. They are here in Liberia. I even learned from somebody that the current vice president, Dwight Howard Taylor, is a product of the Lutheran Training Institute. I've seen a lot of great men and women who passed through the walls, through the ranks and files of this institution. So if we begin to kind of map up and to track up those personalities who are serving in different areas of disciplines, be in the area of health, in the area of education, in the area of agriculture, bringing them back together to recognize them that their alma mater has been in Rome for a very long period of time, and it is about time for them to explore the kind of necessary resources that we so much need. People don't have to, so to speak, bring money on board, but I know each of you guys got some sort of a connections and some sort of a expertise to bring on board. So if we encourage that human resource base to kind of buy in and to have interest into revamping and the restorations of this great institution, I'm very cognizant that the Lutheran Training Institute can get back on a footing and even go beyond its pre-war status. Because most time people talk about pre-war status, I don't just want to look at pre-war status. I want to look at to go beyond pre-war status. Because when you talk about pre-war status, it means you are bringing the institution to the speed just to the normal secondary and high schools that was operating before. But right now, let's look at the contemporary issues that we have in this country. What are those issues? There's so much need for human resource development, not only at the high school level, but also at the tertiary level, and as well as vocational level. And I think those were some of the things that the bishop were drawing on that were competitive in the country. Take for instance, if we become the giant for providing vocational education, that would be great. So just to quickly pause here and then give chance to you guys. It's a brilliant idea um, that the bishop have taken, and I hope that this process will continue.
I agree, Abel. And Jerry dropped off. Initially he was trying to make a point. Jerry dropped off, and Jerry is smiling. I know he wants to talk about his electricity situation, but we will let Jerry to come on shortly. Before then, I just want to indicate that probably we can discuss in segments. Right now, maybe we can discuss education, looking at the bishop's own perspective on how he plans to go about revamping the education sector in the church. And I'm glad you introduced the topic of LTR. The bishop talked about it so nicely. He talked about having a cleanup campaign for a start, working with the alumni association of the institution, and then but what are they here the bishops mentioning was the link aligning LTI with the Lutheran University. I thought that that was a gap. I didn't really hear him talking about how LTI will be an opportunity, a first opportunity, to be used, in the whole setup of the Lutheran University. I'm very sure that's part of the plan, but it's a gap that needs to be bridged. Jerry, maybe in your voice comments, you can try to touch on that a little bit. But I didn't hear that. If any of you guys did, I didn't hear that aspect.
Well, thank you, Cody. Am I audible enough?
Right, you are.
Okay, great, great. Joe, you just guessed right. The electricity fluctuation is very serious.
That's the second time for you.
Yeah, I was trying to make a point to say that I came because Grandma Sue and my mother were being retired today from the Sunday school after some 60 to 32 years each, respectively. And so, fortunately for us, we had the bishop to preach today at the St. Andrew's Parish, and he raised a couple of issues. And I think he then mentioned a meeting that was had at the Duagos residence around the rehab, and they were talking about this whole LTI, revamping LTI, and trying to bring it to pre-war status. And a lot of discussion had gone into that, already. And I think there are a lot of great plans underway. But Joe, when you talk about the gap, I really, really, really think what we need, or the leadership, the executive council, the bishops, so to speak, need to concentrate on to bridge that gap, to form the nexus, is to seriously try to see how the policy issues can take some of these things into consideration. And I will tell you why. We cannot. I mean, everybody will want to come to help. Then the bishop being emphasizing and calling the entire church to come to rally around to help. He needs the expertise, but we need to make sure that we hinge that on a proper reform. You understand? So people cannot do it because they are magnanimous. They both should go together. They're doing it because they are magnanimous, but notwithstanding, there are policies clearly spelling out roles and responsibilities. You understand? We know that the ELCA or the ALIA are trying to see how they can help on the university. But how is it in terms of policy, going to focus on bridging that gap with the LTI, which may be technical vocational institution, maybe a gap portion academic, as well as some of the other secondary institutions. We're talking about school system, because the bishop regularly stated on the show the last time that he will be opting for a system where the secondary can feed into the tertiary. But as we speak, Joe, you were taking into consideration that the thing we call school system is not a system in the first place. Every parish is just so magnanimous, if I should use that word repeatedly, enough to say, look, we're just surrounding our school so that it can be under the LCL. But there is, as far as I am sitting and talking to you, and other people can bear me witness, that whole issue, the policies that was drawn up to bring about the school system, Joe, it is nowhere to be found. It is nowhere to be found. If anybody, and I want the callers to call to say, we saw the policy, and the policy said this about the school system. We just talk in school system because we believe that maybe other churches got school system. But I mean, and I want to be very radical. Yeah, maybe Abel could say something, maybe Pastor Yapazo could say something about that, but I have not. And not only me, but many other persons have said that this issue of the policy that brought into being the school system is non-existent. So that's the first thing. So if we don't know clear roles and responsibility, what the church, for example, will be contributing, while a LCL, for example, will be contributing. Before we start to talk about that, it takes into consideration the holistic picture of the university as well as maybe the secondary, the tertiary institution. So
Right.
it is good that the bishop have put together a reform policy or constitutional reform committee, but I think these are some of the issues they need to look at. Do the research, do the analysis, see if we got these policies in existence and how we can be able to look at this policy and modify them. But as I speak, and I hope that callers will be able to call, we do not have a document on the book anywhere in our archive to show that the St. Andrews Lutheran, not the St. Andrews, but the Lutheran Church rather in Liberia, this is the policy for the school system of the Lutheran Church in Liberia. Everything will depend on that history. Betty McCormick and I were there to suggest something, and we're trying to see how we're trying to work on it. And after Betty McCormick and I left, what happened? What's the policy? What's the document to show? The roles and responsibility of the parish. If I build my own structure and now I'm surrendering my structure to the LCL, what am I going to benefit? It's a quid pro quo situation. And if I cannot benefit as a church, then definitely it becomes difficult for me to surrender my school to the LCL to say, well, we're going to be forming part of the school system. And these are the challenges that we've been having. And beyond and over and above the gap that we did not see, Joe, these are things that we believe Bishop need to take into consideration.
Right. So Jerry, here's the thing. Raven, I'll be coming to you next, but Jerry, here's the thing. I think we shouldn't be too definite about the unavailability of a concept or a working document for a possible school system. I know that Alfred Gomulo, the late Alfred Gomulo, and Betty McCrano were working on a concept paper that was supposed to be, transformed into what should be a project document for the Lutheran school system, bringing under one umbrella all of the secondary schools within the church. However, you are right that that has not been approached with some degree of seriousness, and the leadership now has a responsibility to take that and run with it. But what I think is possible is that we can work on both concomitantly. While we are trying to put a structure, content, a physical infrastructure, and then institutional structure and a content, for the university, I think that a focus can be on our existing institutions, say like the Lutheran Training Institute, the Phoebe Hospital, the current Lutheran Hospital, and see how we can put in place a structure that can bring these institutions together, as possible campuses to host the anticipated Lutheran University with colleges that we can work on, we can develop. We have the expertise in the church. We can do that. We can work on that, while at the same time working on strengthening the secondary school system. Because Jerry, you struck a very good point. The secondary school system is a bit tough because parishes have their own secondary schools that they are funding, that they own. And surrendering those institutions to an umbrella organization has to be a detailed, worked out plan acceptable by all, both the national leadership and each of those parishes that have those institutions. So we can be dealing with both of them concomitantly. I think, in my own opinion, the only gap that I saw was that the bishop was not bringing into perspective the existing institutions like the medical institutions and then the Lutheran Training Institute as a first start, fresh as a first start for the establishment of the Lutheran University. I know that some efforts are being made in that direction to start using those institutions, but I thought he will elaborate on that much. But let me go to Revin right now to get his perspective on what he thinks about what came out of our sit down with the bishop last Sunday. Revin.
Joe, thank you again. And but just to let Jerry know, Jerry, you need to find a light bulb to put over where you're sitting, because I think where you're sitting is so dark. only your T-shirt can be identified, not even yourself. So, but again, it was a great time to have uh, Bishop Padmore with us, and I know Joe uh, said, "Well, the Reverend can ask all of the questions," and I felt as well, and Bishop Padmore said, "I need to listen to you." And I need to hear you. And I said, well, I'll be careful how I pose my question because this is my immediate boss. So I'm careful as to how I pose my question to him. But like, Jerry has spoken concerning the issue of the LCL school system as one of those things that Bishop talked about. In my mind, my thing is that the Bishop mentioned LTI because LTI is one of our oldest institution, one of the best we've ever had in the past, one of the best to. I didn't go to LTI. I heard about it because my dad went to LTI, and LTI put up very good, very good people and and brilliant people around this country. And when the bishop mentioned LTI, I think he's just like saying we need to go back to reawakening our institutions that have brought us proud, our institutions that have made great, our institutions that have made great impact to society. We need to go back to lifting those institutions, or we need to go back to revamping those institutions. So I think I personally think that was the line from which the bishop spoke about, when he mentioned LTI, because LTI having to be one of our most primary, one of our most valuable entity we have, educational facility we have that have played a very key role in the establishment of of Liberia and so on. So, but again, I think the bishop is proceeding well. He said a lot of things that caught my attention, and I like to mention here. One of those things the bishop said that caught my attention, and we need to do away with the issue of uh, wanting to be too sympathetic when it comes to the church, because if the church needs to succeed, then we need to set good examples of how we make implementation. So the bishop said he doesn't think that we should have 20 employees in an entity that can pay only 5 persons and 5 persons can do the work. I'm just trying to paraphrase. I may not be exact. So look, and he said if there is a need to cut down in places, it's not about any wish how.
Reverend, that's a very good perspective. But Reverend, you want us to finish with the education segment when we come to stock taking, because it's just with stock taking, and
Okay,
you
yeah,
could
yeah.
make
So
comment
so
on that.
so 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 on the line of the educational sector, the bishop was right. I don't think he's in any error when he talks about the issue. It's not about how many persons from LTR that may be barking on the door of the bishop, but it's just that LTR having to be one of our most valuable assets we have as an institution. And if we can just, because if you see where LTR is currently, and if you think about the number, if you think about how many persons, good people around the world that LTR impacted and that are willing to turn back to LTR, there is a need for us to go back to LTR. And when it comes to the issue of education, I, one person serving the LCR as a pastor, had issues with the what you call a school system. You know, I've never asked them before for a policy document. I didn't see a policy document. There could be one, but I didn't read one and I didn't see one and I didn't ask them because I know most of our meetings, those policy issues were being flagged by representative from the school system. Like I know there is a guy called, I think, Philip Colley, who was one of those representatives. The late godmother, who happened to be my uncle, was also coming regularly to St. Andrew when our school board at St. Andrew took serious issues with the school system. And some of the things we felt that was good from the beginning with the school system, we thought that the school system needed the system was appropriate, but the system needed to be into stages. For example, the system needed to have started with saying we need all Lutheran schools to wear the same uniform. We need all Lutheran schools to wear the same badge, and we will follow up and make sure that they're wearing the same badge. We need all Lutheran schools to ensure that the 12th graders are wearing the same necktie or same bow. We need all Lutheran schools, to ensure that they are opening at the same time and closing at the same time. But there was some sticker issue with the school system when it comes to the finances, because people were turning in their funds with the school system and were not getting back those funds. They were not getting it being remitted as they wanted it, like paying their staff, how you call it, doing some renovation work on their property. The school system also were coming in, for example, a school like Trinity Lutheran School had a building that has been sponsored. They have taken a loan from the bank. They go and work on their building, and the school system were coming overnight to say, give us your school. And school as Trinity were telling them, all right, no, we can't give you our school, because the first thing, we got funds to pay on this school. And if we turn it over to you, you're not prepared to even pay what we have. So we will have to keep it, pay what we owe the bank, because we signed those commitments with the bank. When we're done with paying that, then we can start talking about whether we'll give it to you or not. Somebody, St. Andrew, there were many occasions where we talk about backing off from the system because there were things we wanted done that was difficult to get doing. And I thought the issue was just about the issue of fundings. If the school system was going to function well, if they are just coming to place to say, look, we will do all of the work we can do, but for now, we're not going to get involved with how much money you raise for your school, how much money. Because I was in a meeting at St. Peter's, and I can quote this. I was in a meeting at St. Peter's when the St. Peter's Parish Council chose or made some strong decisions wanting to withdraw from the school system. And I asked one of the ladies who were in that convention, that St. Peter's convention that December, why they wanted to withdraw from the school system. The lady told me, look, when we ran this school at St. Peter's Parish Council, we made more money. We have more money left within our covers. Since we turned it over to the school system, we hardly get anything. We get more debts than we get. So then we could all tell that the school system had a lot of lapses that would not be corrected. And I one person who always pushed that the school system needed to come into place with those formalities, like let's wear the same badge, let's wear the same necktie, let's wear the same bow, let's wear the same uniform, and wait after a while before getting into this whole issue about the fundings, because the fundings were creating a very big issue. So I'm hoping that with this new administration, some of those things could be worked into. If not, I want to agree with Jerry that we technically don't have a system. We got something pretending to be a system, but we don't have a system. Thank you, Joe.
Great, Reverend. You made a very good point. We'll be coming to you, Willie, because I know, Willie, you will have some information, some light to shed on the Lutheran University perspective. We will go to Jerry briefly. And I had a question to ask as a way of, still going back to the LTR conversation. And let me take Jerry comment. And after that, I will ask the question.
Thank you so much, Woody. Joe, as you know, we said we try to secure the facts beyond emotions.
Right.
And I know for the word that we are not getting emotional here, but it's good sometimes that we try to see how we can be able to call a spade, because that is the way, in fact, we can innovate. I see Big Brother Jerome Collet, stating that the information is not true. What we're saying here is relative. I did not say that because I did not see a policy, a policy may not exist. But also, we are stating the fact, and Reverend just reconfirmed what I said, that I was a parish council, secretary at my own parish before I left. I did not see a policy. Rev. Elamoba, the late, was chair of the board before leaving the school board at St. Andrews. We advocated and we even tried to see how we could call the committee member from St. Peter's. I think Brother Jerome Colette was one of the committee members, I do know, to come and provide us some clarity. They came and they said some things without evidence, documents for us to see. And it's good that he's watching. So our point here is we may have a fine policy rating, but what we need to do is to ensure that the policy is clear, everyone will be fulfilled with the policy and know their roles and responsibility in terms of implementation. That is the fact. I can tell you one thing, Joe, before I zero in on this entire thing. The school will remit to the system in some kind of fund, either operational fund or so. Reverend Yapaso is yeah. But the contention of most of the schools, and I don't know if the policy had that, and how was it laid out? The contention of most of the schools that submitted itself on the school system, it was difficult, as I said, for that kind of quid pro quo to exist. We remit, but if something happens to the school itself will have to, or the church will have to contribute so that they can be able to treat the situation. And we don't want our new bishop to come and meet this situation unsettled when he has a lot of things and he has to hit the ground running, as he started already discussing, the issue of LTI and the refurbishment of LTI. So this policy, we need to look at them again. If there's a need for modification, we try to see how we can modify so that every school under the system will have a clear understanding of its role and responsibility and how the finances will be taken into consideration in terms of, who the benefit or how, the finances will be utilized. These are something that we need to take into consideration, Joe, because I know it for a fact. I was there, and at the time I was secretary for the council before Reverend Yabazo even joined us. We did not see that policy, and we cried all over the place looking for that policy. And Brother Colette went at the church, he and another person, to explain to us the benefit of the school getting under the school system without a document. And it's good he's a lawyer. So there should be revived empirical evidence. So now you come here on the show to say, and brother Colette, sorry, I'm not picking on you today, but it's good for this kind of conversation to come up so that at least we can be able to straighten it up. So we happen now to know that policy exists. I didn't see it, but it didn't mean that it didn't exist. I'm happy to know that it existed and stayed in existence. But I think the issue of implementation needs to be seriously considered. Then before we start talking about within the policy, modifying them, we can start talking about bridging the gap from the secondary to the tertiary, because Bishop made a very brilliant point. And I think Reverend Yabazo emphasized that we need uniformity in everything. And we're talking about that. The secondary school should be feeding into the tertiary institution. And we need to make sure that the system is right. The policy that will roll out this identical system we're talking about should be right.
Ambassador, you've made a point abundantly. You made a point quite sufficiently, and you couldn't have said it any better. And I think what Brother Colette tried to espouse is just to provide information that yes, a policy exists. I haven't read his comment yet. Before we come to you, Willie, I just wanted to say that yes, everyone here is concerned. I've always said we are here to ask the questions, but we go beyond asking the questions because we are Lutherans. We are also in support of what happens in the church in terms of the positivity, the growth and development of the church. So the fight is that if a policy exists and is not serving the purpose, so it becomes irrelevant. The important thing is not to have the policy on the shelf. The policy should be implementable, and the results should be very clear for everybody to see, everybody to feel, and everybody to enjoy, to realize. Let's try to work with what the bishop has said. We're going to do a review of all of those existing policies, and where there are no policies, policies will be developed so that we can have working documents. And Ambassador, we understand exactly the angle you come from. This has been a trouble, a problem with the secondary schools. We haven't gotten anywhere with the secondary schools because even if policies exist, I don't think they are clear enough, or they are appeasing to the institutions that own the various secondary schools. So somebody will ask the question, what is the relevance of a policy when it's not serving the purpose, even if it exists? So the other thing would be, Jerry, yes, you are right. So it's possible that a policy exists, but it's not serving the purpose, or the policy don't exist at all. Both also mean almost the same. Having said that, let me go to Willie. Willie, you have some perspectives when it comes to the Lutheran University, because I know Aliyah has been involved. I remember in Pennsylvania, I think about a year and a half or two ago, I also made a presentation at that convention on the Lutheran University establishment. I know Reverend King, Jesse King, who is leading the process in Liberia, was at that meeting. He also, at that convention, he also did a presentation, and we all chipped in in terms of what we think. She informed the process. So I'm sure by now Aliyah has some perspective, and you are privileged. Yeah, can you share some of that information with us?
Yeah. So be, before I can come in, I would just yield a few seconds to Brother Lewilly. Yeah,
Oh,
he just wanted, yeah, he wanted to jump in quickly, so I would just yield a few seconds to him, and he can go ahead. Ibu, are you there?
Yeah, thank you so much, Willie. Um, yeah, yes, I'm here. I'm saying thank you ever so much. I think a lot has been spoken, and I seen the comment pouring in. Somebody saying, "Oh, you need not to discuss the issue because you don't have substantial information," right? But what I want to quickly say is that the SEO school system does has a policy. They got a very good policy that cover uniformity. They got a curriculum that is aligned with that of the Liberian school system, right? And the school system, these schools also have power. They have trained teachers to actually deliver the kind of services that they need to deliver. But as I regularly saying, I don't want to go into policy. This could be a suggestion to the incoming leadership and to those that are going to take over the school system. Because if you want to run, one thing I've realized over the years is that the SES school system does not have control over the school. Because there are two players here on the field. You have the parishes on one hand that run this school as some sort of a support arm to help in supporting their church. And then you have the community on top there. You cannot our missionaries were here. They had every mission. And I used to see Mr. Bian coming from central administration going up to pay my father when he was then teaching there. Okay. So if the SES school system want to have a complete control over the school system, they have to pump in some money. The way you do it is to make an assessment, assess the various schools across the country, come up with listing of teachers, make a strategic budget. Maybe we'll talk about 2, 3, or 5 year strategic budget that the SCL will be able to adequately pay teachers that are teaching in those schools and maybe take care of some of the administrative business of the school. When you do that and then you try to kind of enhance their learning environment, the libraries and other stuff, And once you are able to do all of those things, then I mean, you'll be able to have some control in terms of having a school system on a broader spectrum, right? So one of the things I was suggesting one to the former director of the school systems is, can you develop a concept that we have, like let's say 3 years budget, and that 3 year budget, the SUL can sponsor that 3 years budget in terms of paying the teachers, in terms of getting the library into place, in terms of paying for administration and the rest of that. And whatever money then is raised within the 3 years period can go into a kind of a FO account, a restrictive account, so that after 3 years, obviously the school system will be able to stand on her own. But trust me, gentlemen, it would be very, very difficult if you have parishes struggling to kind of rebuild or to build their schools, and you expect that they will take the funding and give it to central administration. Like right now, what is happening to the St. Matthew Lutheran Church? The school got burned, about 2 years back. Today, the schools the church is struggling to rebuild the school. Though I understand the SCA is chipping in with small, small money, but there's supposed to be a kind of a full responsibility of the SEO if they want to take control. I mean, you have to build a school, and then in that way, you will have some sort of a control. So until all of these things are done, gentlemen, it will be difficult to have a coordinated kind of a school system. I just wanted to chip in with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Will it before you come in?
Go ahead.
Willie, before you come in, let me say this, viewers, you are tuned to my Lutheran Connections discussion. And today we are looking into the discussion with Bishop when he sat with us for the first time on this platform last Sunday. And right now we are discussing the segment on education, some of the things the Bishop talked about and how practical that is going to be. You can also have your say by calling the numbers you see on the screen. But I just wanted to say this. We are going to do our best as management of the Lutheran Connection TV to bring on the policy person responsible for this harmonization in the secondary school system so that we can sit and discuss with them from the perspective of the leadership. That's why emphasis on taking stock was very important, stood out during our conversation with the bishop, because the bishop needs to clearly understand, his leader needs to understand how some of these things have been going prior to him taking over, and where they can start from in terms of policy, in terms of the way the schools are being run, whether independently or they are still under the umbrella of the Lutheran school system, and to what extent that is working, how effective, how efficient that is. They will be in a better position to provide us the kind of information that the public needs, that the audience needs. So I just wanted to chip in that before we go to Willie. Willie, it's over to you.
Yeah. I think the conversation now had drawn to the the Lutheran school policy, Lutheran school system policy, but we are actually looking at the because when Bishop met with us during his first public appearance on this platform, mostly watched platform by all Lutherans and non-Lutherans. I should make that clear that he talked about several issues, including education. And for me, like Joe said from the very onset, that I just saw a little gap in between the conversation. The bishop talked about LTI separately. Then he also talked about his meeting with Aliyah when Aliyah was, in Liberia, attending his coronation ceremony or his consecration ceremony. Just to clarify that, he had a conversation with Aliyah and he's ready to go. And in the memorandum of understanding, uh, Aliyah and the LCL agreed that these institutions, the already existing institutions, are going to be used to come up with the university. They're going to be used at campuses. You're going to have LTI is going to be the technical campus. that campus is going to host all of the engineers, the engineering programs, the agricultural program, and all of the technical programs are going to be at LTI. They the current facility in Salali, no, Salala, okay, the one in Salala, okay, is going to be used as the theological campus. Okay, and the campuses on Phoebe and Corinth are going to be used for the medical campuses. All of our sciences are going to be there. Like it could be it can be nursing, physical therapy, and nutritional science, and just environmental science. They are going to be used. So, but I did not see that link during the bishop conversation. That okay, you know, the LCS is working with Aliyah on this Lutheran University thing, and we are going to be using these campuses. But again, I'm not in the I'm not in really, I'm not in the bishop head to say, okay, maybe he's trying to do it individually. Then when things get into place, then he can say, okay, let's put them together. Maybe that's the plan he's talking about. I'm not
No,
pretty sure, but I did not see that gap. I did not see that bridge when he was having the conversation. That's one thing
Willie,
I thought I was lacking.
Willie, let me come in before I lose my thought.
Go
I think
ahead,
the
go ahead.
bishop, I think the bishop was just being, I think the bishop was just being careful.
Careful.
Yes, but the fact that the bishop said that his leadership has started working with Aliyah speaks to the fact that they support the
He
agreement
said he started
between.
working with LTI as well.
No, Willie, let me just lay
Okay,
it out. I think the bishop indicated that they started working with Aliyah already. Which speaks to the fact that I mean, his leadership accepts the agreement between Aliyah and the LCL that was reached by his predecessor, and which entails everything that you have laid out. So probably it was too early, and if I were in the bishop's position, I would have taken the same stance too. It was too early for the bishop to have gone into the details to start discussing the details, because he still need time to have a better grasp of the contents of that agreement. Yes,
right.
so I don't think, yeah, I think it was intentional and it was right as well to do that. So I just wanted to
Well, I
lay
think we
that
got
up.
a
No, no,
call.
I mean that's what I said.
Well,
I
I
did
think we
not
got a
see that. I
call.
did
We
not
got
see
a
those
call.
links. But
So
anyway,
we have a call.
we
We
have
got
our
a
first
call.
caller. We have our first caller on the phone. One second. Yeah, go ahead, state your name and where you calling from, and make your point.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Elijah's dinner. Well, I've been following the conversation. It is good that some of these conversations are happening right now. One thing I want to point out here is that in our church or our institutions, we have a lot of workshops. We have a lot of capacity building things. We set up different committees that people develop documents, and those documents sits on the counter and just develop those without being implemented. So, like, if you see Brother Jerome is so reachable talking about there's a policy, that's the background from which he's coming. Because there was a 5 years plan that was drawn out. I was on the executive council when that plan was drawn out. The communication was sent to parishes, so different schools, to discuss with the parishes how to go about this. But convention took a decision that the school system policy document to merge the schools and bring them under the LCL as a one school system. For me, that implementation and the convention decision to do that hastily was the problem. Because the LCL schools, they were not built like you see the Catholic school system from day one. It was in control of the Catholic Church. They had a secretary, everything set up. But LCL schools were being operated by parishes, and all of these parishes had their own autonomous governing bodies that control these schools. And now coming with a decision to transition from those local governing bodies to the national church, the transition point that this merger happened under was the problem for the school system. And that created more problems for the school system than good for people. So what I want to say is that the LCL, the bishop coming into office now, looking at the school system, if he really needs to work on our school system, because we need to add value to our institutions. We developed policy document. We got a lot of technocrats within the LCO. The work on these documents is sit there and develop those. Let this bishop revisit these institutions and see what are documents that have been created in the past, and then you can now develop a strategic document and find ways to implement these policies that were put into place. Otherwise, if you don't do that, we will keep talking this over and over and over and over, and there will be nothing done within the LCO. So let's learn to implement policy and have a good strategic plan to follow. But we don't follow true plans in the Lutheran Church in Liberia. Same with the government of Liberia. We don't follow true plans. There are plans out there, but people get into this position, whether they're supposed to be developing this policy, they're supposed to be coming up with new ideas. There's no innovation. You just go and sit on what you see there, what donors send. That's it. We don't look for local fundings. And we have a lot of resources in Nigeria that we can tap into to add value to our own institutions that we run. So that's just what I wanted to contribute to this process. And I appreciate that you all are discussing this today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother Zina. Thank you.
Back to you, Willie. You can conclude on your point. I just needed to provide that clarity as a pastor.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure the bishop wanted to be strategic. Yeah, about that.
Right. Yeah. But again, I mean, some of the people who are listening and those who are pretty much familiar with that MOU document, if for example if for example you're working, because he said this, he said this, that he is working with LTI, alumina, both diaspora and local, directly. So there must be something that will push these people say, you know what, LTI is my alma mater. LTI, my parents went to LTI. My parents taught at LTI. I did not go to LTI, but I have some connection, specific connection to LTI. I might not be a Lutheran, but I have this connection to LTI. They will want to focus their energy in there. But then again, when you start to talk about the university say, okay, but we too got interest in LTI. We're talking about LTI, that LTI should fall under the university. But again, this is the first, the bishop is just taking over. I'm not saying that the bishop, he did not say this or he said that. I'm just saying that I just saw this little gap in between. That's what I'm just saying. But I think the bishop did extremely well. And one thing I want to say, I know we're going to get to that point. I just want to say this so I don't forget. Look, and Abel did emphasize on this, that the bishop did not, the bishop was Bishop Padmore was one person who, when we sent out this invitation, without any hesitation, he responded to us immediately. That's how much importance he attached to this platform. And I will say this, that during the conversation, when we made that open pronouncement and we made that proposal to him, that the management of My Lutheran Connection Live TV have opted to give him this slot of the Bishop Hour. He did not say, look, I'm the bishop now, I'll be having too many things on hand, so let me go and think about it and come back. It's only when Jesus called his disciples, one of them said, oh, let me go and bury my relative, let me go and do this. He said, no, let the dead bury the dead. The bishop did not even scratch his head. He accepted it. So, that's one thing that the bishop did publicly that I'm so impressed about.
Right, Willie, you are right. You are right about that. What a good way to end your segment on the discussion on education with respect to looking into the bishop's conversation. We have all had a good perspective on this. Jerry went into it detailed, and he was able to lift it in a manner and form that attracted serious attention. We appreciate that, Jerry, as always. And then the education sector is very, very important. And that is why we took it as number one for our discussion today. so that we spend more time on it. So people get to know what is actually happening behind the scenes in terms of what the leadership is planning to do with regards to revamping the education sector. We are blessed to have a big structure like the Lutheran Training Institute that is still available. I know a lot of work needs to be done, but it's good that we have the infrastructure out there. We have the current Lutheran Hospital. We have the Phoebe Hospital. We have the infrastructure at Salala. We have some at Totota. I think the Lutheran Church is blessed. All we need to do now is for the leadership to act in a way that we can transform those institutions so that we can have a better university. I see Brother Collet, he said the school policy also has written there in how and when a school be organized or established by an individual parish. Unfortunately, people in Liberia seeing the operation of the school as a money-making venture. Therefore, everyone, including churches, go into establishing schools without taking cognizance of what needs to be put into place first before establishing their schools. Here again, Abel is speaking to the burning of St. Matthew building and the role of the school system in restoring. Okay, the message is long, but we got the meat of it. People are doing stuff on individual basis, establishing all boil down to the scrupulous implementation of the quote-unquote existing policy. And I think that's the angle from which all of us come. If the policy exists, the policy should be able to address all of these issues to prevent people from taking individual actions, building their own schools, running and operating their own schools. If the policy speaks to the contrary, then people who are doing those should be doing it at their own risk because there is an institution that exists consistent with the quote-unquote policy. So, Brother Collet, yes, why it's true that we agree that you are alluding to a policy, and we look forward to you sitting with us on this show to discuss the details, the meat of this matter, because it is at the heart of the church. We are talking about the education of our children in the Lutheran Church and how we can build that nexus, according to my brother Jerry, the ambassador, that nexus, have that connectedness, how we can build that link, align our secondary schools to our prospective university in a way that our children matriculating strictly to the university can benefit from quality tertiary education based on the foundation that they will gain from the secondary schools. So we want a system. We don't want to lose situation. Other institutions have systems that other assemblies of ours have benefited from. The Catholic school systems, the Methodist school system. Those are structures that are in place and that are working very effectively and efficiently. We can also do it as Lutherans. What we need to do is give and take. Those institutions are not vehemently saying no, but those institutions want, a system in place that they can trust, a guarantee system in place that they can work with, to surrender their institutions to a system that will help them to manage it while they all run it together as a team. So I think that's the kind of thing we're talking about here on the show. And I'm sure that's what the bishop is looking forward to. That's what Jerry was trying to allude to. That's what Reverend Yakwazo was trying to allude to. That's what all of us trying to allude to. Even you, Brother Collet, I'm sure that's what you are trying to allude to, because I'm sensing from your comment that you are a little bit frustrated too, that irrespective of the existence of the policy, people are still doing the contrary. That's what I'm sensing from your comment. And if that is the case, then it means that we all have a greater responsibility. In the words of the bishop, he can't do it alone. We all have to do it. And part of our contribution is what we are discussing on the show here right now, that we need a policy, and one policy on our secondary school system that we can work with. And we have to expand our policy because we are now talking about a Lutheran university. So it has to cover all of our educational institutions. So like the national education policy, which I know very well to my fingertip, is called the education ladder. You have at the bottom of the ladder the early childhood development, which entails early childhood education, and then you have the basic education. First, we used to have primary education, and then we have which start from first grade to sixth grade is no longer the case. You have basic education, which inculcates both primary and junior high. It comes to 8th grade. We borrowed that from the British. I don't know how we managed to do that in Liberia. We have basic education, and after basic education, we have secondary education, which is the senior secondary education. which is 10th to 12th grade. From there, we have tertiary education. In the Lutheran school system, we should have our secondary education, and I agree with Jerry, and that should be on a ladder. Next to that should be the tertiary education in our Lutheran school system. But we need a policy for that. We need a policy that we guard that in every step and every way. We need a policy for that. So let's continue the policy discussion, Brother Cole, and all who will be interested in this. Let's talk about it. Let's support the leadership to make sure that this is done. But here's my question. I know that we have campuses, and this is the way I would like for us to end the stuff on education. Let's talk about this. LTR is vast. I attended LTR. There are dormitories. There are different buildings at LTR. I know the nook and cranny of LTR. I used to even go to Dom 4 across the swamp, where when we used to, let me just confess on the show here, when we used to steal each other blankets, pressing iron, we used to take it to Dom 4, and the people would kill chicken for us and cook, and we sit there and eat after, stealing our friends' blankets and, pressing irons and things and shoes and stuff. And we sit there and eat and drink cassava wine. At the expense of our colleagues.
I hope the bishop is here. I hope the bishop is hearing this, because restitution.
Will it stop talking? You don't know anything about what I'm talking about.
I hope the bishop is listening, and I'm sure he's listening.
That's LTR is very large. It's vast. I love it there. And let me be frank with you. We can expand it in terms of the infrastructure. And we can improve everything in terms of the setup. Why don't we make LCR the main campus of our university? Let's do something differently. Is that possible, Jerry, Willie, Revin, Abe? Can we make LTR our main campus where we take 80% of our programs? People who want to attend LTR should go. We should have our dormitories. We should make more money. Students should be hosted on campus, as we used to do for the secondary program. Why don't we take a second look at the agreement and expand that? Some of us can take the initiative with our understanding of the education system in the country to make some proposals on how we can further expand LTR as the main host of our university. 80% of our programs to be carried out at LTR. It's possible for us to do that, than to be jumping here and there, and we can do it differently. To move our university from the urban area and take it to the rural area, and still be recognized as a quality tertiary education institution. What do you think, guys? So, we can close the education thing on that.
I just want to jump in quickly on that, right? Like what you are proposing, if you actually look at the document, the university is actually going to be a structure like in a rural area, okay, mostly LTR, where you have, what are going to, LTR is going to host, like, according to the document, LTR is going to host up to, I would say, 70 to 80%.
Wonderful.
Okay, like I'm just forgetting this program where the pastors go, or the deacons go for training in Salaye, in Salaye or Salala.
It's Totota. Well, it's
Totota. Thank you very much. Totota. Where Reverend King was the lay training center. Okay, because that area is already used, or is already used for training of our pastors. It's going to be transformed to the theological campus. That's going to be the theological campus, and because we have two existing medical facilities, and we already have Lutheran, medical school, schools. There you have the Phoebe School of Nursing, and you also have the Esther Bacon School of Nursing in Zozo. These two will be the science campuses. These
College of Science.
College of Science.
Yes, College, right?
Yes, right. But everything else will be at LTR. That's why the focus is on LTR. And I like the fact that we Lutherans are hearing to the call of the bishop. Look, I was so much excited. Okay, I was so much excited that when the bishop made a call saying that we are going to LTR, this group of Lutherans already went ahead and started brethren. So, look, bishop, we heard your call and we've started. They posted it on Facebook. They said, Bishop, we heard your call and we have started. They started breaching. Before all of the, the other technical people, the finance people can donate and everybody can do X, Y, and Z. These guys have already started. So it means that there's a lot of emphasis, there's a lot of focus right now on LTI. So
great. So Willie, let's hear from Jerry and hear from Abe, maybe in 1 minute each. Then we'll close on this segment and introduce another segment.
And maybe quickly we can just recognize our people quick, because there's one of our
after them we can do the recognition.
Okay.
Yeah, Abe, go ahead. I will come after you.
Thank you so much, Willie. I think okay, we need to kind of close the curtain on this. A lot has been said, but I just want to quickly just 1 minute comment on the tertiary education. I think that is long overdue. People have seen this to be very impossible, but Willie, you just pack up a lot of issues that we have said time immemorial. You already have infrastructures in place. You are not going to be building infrastructures like other institutions who wants to have universities established. You mentioned about the Total Lutheran Mission that's currently providing theological education to deacons and deaconesses and evangelists of our church. That can be fast-tracked. It can be elevated quickly as possible to College of Theology and Education. The road is good. I mean, personnel would be able to drive from Monrovia to Total even during the week to other courses and maybe return to their places. You already have the Phoebe School of Nursing and that of the current Esther Bigger School of Nursing. Those schools are already running on a 3-year basis. All you need to do elevate them to what? To colleges and offer bachelor degree.
Program. Yeah.
And that is much easier. You are not building institutions. You have the Lutheran Training Institute if you want to have it as College of Agriculture and Science and Technology. I mean, the infrastructures are there. Sooner or later, in less than 2 years, we're going to have the quota reaching to salary. I mean, the road construction is almost in salary time. So there are a lot of Lutherans and other people who drive up there, offer courses and come right back. And you want to have a College of Business and Public Administration right in Monrovia. You have buildings. Take, for instance, you have the Congotown building. You have Tower Hill.
No, Abel, we want to carry to LTR. We want to carry those to LTR as well. People move there and they are lodged at the dormitories and they pay some money to us. We want to carry them to LTR.
Absolutely, Joe.
We want to do it differently.
It's just a matter of diversifying and then what you want to do. Why is calling and pulling here and there? I mean, we are blessed. We are blessed with infrastructure. So all we need to do is to get the policies out and then roll them. I know there are a lot of work that have been done already, but as Elijah regularly said, most of the policies sometimes stay on the decks until it turns into dust. But I think it's about time to take this paper from the papers and begin to pull it into action. That is possible. And that's just what I want to say about the entire...
Yeah, thank you, Abel. Let's take Reverend last question, last comment on the education segment, 1 minute. Then we'll go to Jerry. Jerry will be the last. And the reason why I want Jerry to be the last on this, I want Jerry to look into Reverend Allison's comment. Dr. Allison made a comment. I would like Jerry to look into that as well. Willie will put it up, Jerry, when you are speaking for your 1 minute. Reverend, can you do your closing comment on the education segment?
Well, Joe, I agree with you again, and I agree with almost everything the folks have said. I basically agree with you, Joe, on I was looking forward to a time where we can bring Councillor Jerome Colette. You know, I know the last time we should have had him, we had some situation,
and
he didn't show up. But I'm glad that he's always following this program and making his input. And I will really look forward to having an opportunity to sit with him on this a very big Lutheran platform to talk about issues relating to the Lutheran Church. And like you guys have already said, the Lutheran Church got the foundation, got the basis to get this whole issue about education going. I know Joe wants us to take them to LTR. Well, we will take some to LTR, not all to LTR. Thank you. I just want to close up with that.
Thank you, Reverend. We go to you, Ambassador there in Monrovia, not Freetown this time.
Thank you so much, Joe. And I also want to join Reverend Yabazo to say that we need to make frantic effort. Maybe on our next show or after data, we can get data to bring Councillor Colette in because he's very passionate about this. And like you said, Joe, I also see the frustration that he's been putting out on the issue of the policy vis-a-vis the implementation of the policy. Quickly, I also want to say that as you mentioned, LT, on the campus, I've not been there, Joe, but talking about taking the blanket and drinking the cassava wine, it speaks to the serenity. And that serenity is just a good venue for a university, because the scholars that are going there will need quietude, they will need to focus. There will be no much distraction, I believe, because I think the venue is ideally located to the point where people, won't distract. And most of the other universities, in fact, that was built and later on development started to go there, these were the situation that LU. LU was the same situation. The development started to go there. Later on, you see most of the development gravitated now towards, Fendel. The students have to, bulk of the students have to move on to Fendel to see how they can, because that is the whole educational setting. You need that kind of serenity. But it's just that we need to think deeper into the challenges too, not only the policy, but somebody talk about road condition. We need to look at that. We are in a technological age now. We're talking about ensuring that we have the facilities for internet and for good research and all of those things, for the campus to be equipped. That's quality. Because if we want to gravitate serious teachers and attract them, is not only the salary as a motivational factor, but you also need to take into consideration other accessories like the internet and for good research, like the issue of library and laboratory, you understand, and all of those things to be set up. Then it brings about the quality. I think those are issues that we need to really take into consideration. Lastly, I think Bishop Reverend Dr. Allison is very right. This issue of sustainability that our forefathers or forebears have been anticipating is down on us. And this is the reason why we're making our contribution now by means of this platform. And I think the best thing we need to do is not only to be patient, not only to be open-minded, but we also need to make sure that we take the bull by the horn. Joe, we need to stop just the talk now and try to see how we can get on the drawing board to work. If you listen to Bishop, the zest, the anxiety to make things happen like it should happen now. Like I listened to him preach today, and immediately there, Bishop was able to call all of the doctors, young doctors, in the Lutheran church, all of the Lutheran church that Auntie Sue and my mother mentored. They all stood. If you see those young kids, medical doctors, now, okay, we say men and women now. Let me not say young kids. You understand? Medical doctors, you will know that, how you call it, the Lutheran Church in Liberia has a lot of human resources. And Joe, Bishop was quick to say, look, I'm getting your number so that we can form the Association of Medical Doctors in the LCL. He went on and said, the lawyers, I'm getting your numbers so we can begin to form the Association of Lawyers of the church. And so you can see passion, you can see fire burn, fire in the belly of the bishop to make things happen. And I agree with Reverend Dr. Allison. We need to join hands to see how we can help the bishop, to realize some of these things as we are speaking. And it is our own contribution we are making, Joe, but it's not only for us to just come on the platform to talk and lift it up, but we need to also put our hands on deck and all hands on deck to ensure that we mobilize resources. We also mobilize both financial and human so that we can make this thing work for the LCL and not Bishop Padmore. Bishop Padmore is there. And he concluded by saying, if you don't help me and I fail, it's not me, but the LCL has failed. That's a strong message.
Thank you, Ambassador. So explicit. Yes, we need all hands on deck. We need
And
to
quickly before Joe conclude, Woody and Ambassador and Abed, Joe need to tell us some of those students who blanket were taken away. We need to call them up and see if it is possible to apologize.
That's what I said. The bishop is listening.
Call them and apologize to them and tell them your blankets that were taken before were taken away by Joe and his team. But
No,
so
Remy,
let me call.
Remy, he said first, I'm going to confess. That's what he said.
Let me
And what the Bible said about confessing.
let me call some names. Let me call some names. Ashford Peel and I used to be good friends. Ashford Peel, the late Jenkins Peel's son, then information minister, I think during Tubber time, his son Ashford Peel. You know him. He was the first SSS director when Ellen took over. He and I used to be good friends, and we had the electric blankets on campus by then. In fact, we were three that had the electric blankets. Topa, he used to play a very good basketball. And so, interestingly, we stole each other blankets. The three of us had electric blankets. We stole the blankets, and we sold those blankets right to Dumfo across the swamp for chicken, and for pepper soup, for piassava wine, and I could give
is that the Ashford Peel that used to be Joe? Is that the Ashford that used to be a SIPO police director?
Yes, Ashford Peel.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Ashford Peel. Yeah, he was at LTR too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of guys. Yeah, but that was just a humorous aspect of it. Guys, great conversation. Let's look into another.
I think the numbers are up because
you
I
are
see.
tuned in. You are tuned in. Yes, George, you can call. The lines are open.
The lines are open, and we just gonna recognize a few of our members quick because we know that people will
through the recognition, but I just wanted to say you are tuned into the Lutheran discussion. Here, your favorite show. Is now time for the recognition of our viewers and some of the comments before we can move to the next comment. The next segment is going to be very interesting. Taking stock. What did the bishop say about taking stock, and how important is taking stock?
Right.
For his leadership.
I'm going to start. In an unusual way. I'm going straight into the middle. I just want to recognize our brother Alfred Menipake Tilly. Alfred Menipake Tilly is watching us. He's following us directly from India. We want to recognize our brother. It is late at this time, but he's following us religiously. So, brother, we want to say thank you very much for following. We want to recognize our Reverend Molba Ezize. He's a regular follower. Our sister couple.
Reverend, good evening to you and the family, the madam and the family.
Our sister couple Saleh, our brother Molba, our brother David K. Molba. This is sis Wilhelmina Molba brother. Our Reverend Willie Hina is right here in Georgia, along with me. Our pastor, the Reverend Dr. Eric Molly Allison. Royal Jerome Jala. We want to recognize our German president, our German youth president, Royal Jerome Jala. Our brother Roger Camon. Want to recognize that's our brother from India. Our father Jerome B. Collet. We want to recognize Rich Kid Kennedy, that's Newark Kennedy. We want to also recognize our brother Elijah Zina. He was on the phone with us earlier. We also want to recognize our partner Moses Cole. We want to recognize Moses Cole. We want to recognize Adolphus Sumo, our brother Adolphus Sumo. We also want to recognize brother Jefferson B. Siakor. He's watching from the Badnersville area. And also we want to recognize Leroy Molba. And also we want to recognize our mother Hawa Quite. She's followers from Coca-Cola factory. And we also want to recognize our senior brother Sonny A. George. He's a regular follower, and I believe we have a call, and he should be on the line very shortly. Go ahead and make your point.
Hey, gentlemen, how you guys doing, man? I'm following the show, but I'm sorry I came a little bit late. Hopefully, I hope I may not say something that other people have already said.
You are most welcome, Brother George. we are actually looking into the discussion we had with the bishop when he sat with us. We want to hear from you. So you are in the right place and you are calling at the right time. We just discussed the education segment of that conversation. We talk about LTR, the existing institutions like Coring, like Phoebe, and their importance to the establishment of the Lutheran University. We talk about policy for our education system, and then the secondary school system, how we can bring them under one umbrella.
No, okay. Thank you. I think I did not miss anything much. You know, when Bishop was explaining last week, it was very, very much interesting. I mean, I saw everybody laughing and putting themselves into the work. Then I got a little afraid, right? Most of the times when people take office, people talk about the zest and, you know, the willingness to begin to work on the spot. And there where the temptation is, I think we need to be a little bit mindful with the kind of change we want to bring. Even though it is very, very much good, but we need to do it one at a time. We need to plan in a way that we can get in the middle and we don't reach at the end. I'm saying this because, I mean, opening a university is a very, very good thing. But what really does it entail? What do we mean when we say we are opening a university? How much is going to cost? What are the timeline? What are we going to begin with? How do we do research in a way that when we begin it, we begin to flow in a line in a way that we don't stop in the end? Where are we getting the money from? We got the people. We got the buildings, or we got the campuses. Are those campuses up to the task? Are the campuses ready to begin to host the universities? I was thinking that we would do a complete assessment, look at the various campuses and see how we can bring them up to light. How we can bring them up to light and see what will be the next thing. I mean, if we take it step by step like that, we will begin to understand it gradually. It's costly. The manpower is there. We all are willing to go back and help. How much do we need to open this university? That's one thing. The second thing I've been looking at is it possible that in helping the bishop, we begin to now plan according to timeline? What is the first and foremost thing that we're supposed to be looking at right now in the way that will help the bishop to be directive, so that we can't just be scattered all around the place? We want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do that. The bishop, according to the stage, according to somebody I heard right now, he has identified doctors, he has identified other classmen, in the lawyers in the church. What is the intention? How is he going to move on with those things? You think forming different groups or in a church, is it going to work that way? We really need them for. Can we do the functions and rules before we begin to see who all fits in? Are we bringing people in first before we do the functions and rules? So I was just thinking that if we begin to lay out things one at a time, and move on gradually, we will be directive and we will go on and everybody will be on the same page. I think for the first year, the bishop should not spread too thin. He should look at the administration of the church. He should look at how we can raise funding. Where are places that we're depending on? Knowing the church means knowing the strength and the weaknesses of the church. I am not saying he does not. He knows because he has been working with the church, but he is now in the strategic position, administrative role, and spiritual role. So those are just my suggestions, so that we become very, very much cautious on how we move ahead. Because if we become overwhelming like this, I know Liberia, how things can be. It comes up like wildfire. The whole university, this is not the very first time. It came up through the late Bishop Harris's time. Blessed be to his soul. And then it went down. Nobody got to hear anything about it. I'm not sure it suffered so much in Bishop Sangolo's era. I'm just saying we plan and go one at a time in a way that will avoid us from spreading. Then we get overwhelmed, and then we get stuck up in the middle. I think this is my suggestion I try to make to you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Before
much.
we leave, we were just jumping to an important segment, Brother George, which has to do with taking stock. And it's consistent
Okay.
with the point you are making because on this show, we have all emphasized that a fundamental first step that a bishop should take should be to take stock so that he abreast himself of where he is in terms of
Okay.
where he is picking up from. Education, what has been done in education? What is the available data that he has? And how can he work with that data in terms of the
Exactly.
program where we are? What is the data on the status of the different program? How can he take off? We talk about all of that here. How important you think that is to his success, to the success of his leadership, which would be something welcomed by all Lutherans? How do you think that is important?
But taking stock is very, very much important because it exposes what is the now, what has passed, and how can we account for what has passed to put it behind us in a way that we can grieve about it. And then we look at things that are very, very much realistic. Taking stock is very, very much important. If you don't take stock, you're going to jump in the middle of the road and then you don't even know what is behind. You don't even know if things that are behind, you can use them. You need to identify what is there then now. What can they be used for? What is our strength right now? So taking stock is very, very much important. If we can take stock, we can't even move the first step. If we move the first step before taking stock, we're gonna run to the wrong direction, and it's gonna lead on an unknown road. So it's very, very much important to take stock. And when we talk about taking stock, we are not doing it. I'm not sure Bishop wants to do it like putting people to the limelight to say who did wrong, who did bad, blah blah blah. I'm not sure that's what he's saying. I think that he's saying that when we're taking stuff, we should be realistic in mapping up things that we had, and we don't have them now. How can we use the things that we have in a way that people get to know that the church is open to everybody? I think that is the kind of stuff he's talking about. I'm not sure that I want to bring people to the limelight and say, oh, this person is corrupt, this person is that way. No, I'm not sure that what the bishop is talking about. Just as you guys are saying, stock taking is very important. If we can take stock, we should not take the first step because we're going to go to the wrong direction.
Right, and that's why you were mindful about, right, when you talk about doing the first things, being mindful, doing it step by step.
Exactly.
Okay, good, gotcha. Okay, thank you, Brother Josh. Always good having you on the show. Thanks for calling.
You're welcome.
All right, Tim, it's up to you. The last time we asked the bishop about taking stock, Jerry, Reverend, Abel, and the bishop was very clear. He said yes, but he used a different code. He said he's not going to call it taking stock or audit. He's going to call it a verification exercise. So, guys, what do you make of that? Audience, it's up to you. You can also send in your comments. Who wants to go first? Jerry, Reverend?
Reverend, you want me to yield my time so you go? Then you take it from the how you call it, Episcopalian perspective? Or
The man
Episcopal?
has the ecclesiastical right.
Aha. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe, for the right pronunciation.
Right. So the last time we talked to the bishop, and the bishop told us that definitely taking stock is on his mind and it's something his leadership will do. However, they are going to do a verification exercise. They're going to verify. And I think by that he meant that they're going to look into what has happened, look into the past, and still be able to take stock. That is why we at Lutheran Connections call it taking stock. Somebody suggested an audit, but he said no. Probably he feels that that is too strong, and maybe because of the church setting. But the fight is that we will be doing a stock taking. And some of the things we're going to be looking at, we asked him about, will be the very education sector that we talk about, how we take stock of that, where we are and where we can take off from. I'm sure if he does that, that will lay some of the concerns and fears that people have that are being expressed about the school system, about the policy issue, about the disconnect in a way that parishes or individuals are owning their own institutions, their own educational institutions versus the school trying to assert, authority as an umbrella organization administering the affairs of the schools. So maybe we can deal with that from stock taking when we have available data that speak to the fights. Maybe we can look at the healthcare institution and see what has gone wrong over the years. Why up to now we are still in transition since the war. We have not even been able to restore those institutions to pre-war status. What is the problem? And what happened in the last 10 years? Maybe why we were not able to do more to restore these institutions considerably. So these are the kind of things we're talking about. And I think we have to go to Revin because Revin was trying to make a point when we're discussing the education sector. When I told him to reserve his point for this segment, he was trying to talk about employees, number of employees versus the scope of work that they can do, and then the pay that they are receiving for, possibly some people not even doing much but receiving out of, and how that hurts the institution. So Reverend, probably you want to expand on that a little bit.
Thank you again, team, Joe, the rest of the guys. I don't feel in any way Bishop Padmore is on the wrong path. I think he's doing his best and he's starting up well. And I am one person who get overly frustrated about this too much meeting because Lutheran people around the world are just the same people. Too much of meeting, and our implementation arms could be far low, and we need to go more to implementing. And if we can have one leader who would take a couple of those visions and put it on their shoulder and go running with them, we need to see what we can do to help them in our way to go running because we are behind and we need to catch up. And the best way to catch up, so we need, and some of those things are not hard to do. They could appear hard to do, but they are not hard to do. They are simple things that we can do. We just need to have the right people, the right hand on deck to go doing them. Sometimes, like I always told people, for practical example, if you chose with your children in your house, Joe or Ambassador or Abed, and you say, look, I want to cook a soup today. If you wanted to get the willingness of all of them as to what kind of soup to cook, you might never find a soup to cook because everybody will have their own kind of soup they want for that day. So you just have to make a decision and say, look, I'm going to go this route and this is what I'm going to. And you realize that, they all will appreciate whatever that was cooked. So the bishop is right in the line of requesting whatever word that is being used in the line of wanting to let's take our famous word stock. And the reason why I think there is a need, and I appreciate that the church, that this new administration wants to proceed in that direction, is because look, for example, the stock will help us to change a couple of players. Let's take one valuable property that the church currently have, the property on the Tower Hill. It's
Yes.
laying there. What are we doing with it? Absolutely
Yes.
nothing. But if we take stock of that property, if we take stock not only of that property, but for all the things we have, could give this current administration a different picture as to how they want to approach the resources we have on the Tower Hill and what they want to do with it. Taking stock will also means that our property in total that are being encroached on by a couple of church members. How much do we still have there? What can we do to secure the little that we still have there? Because church members are encroaching on it by the day, and all we do is just to say we can't go taking it back from them, because if we go taking it back from them, it will not be a good example of the church. But if my memory can serve me right, the last time the LCL ever did start taking of that property on the Total Tower compound was done by the late Amos Colley when he helped the church to do a survey. So we don't even know what we have there in terms of land space. Those are some of the things we're talking about. Do we know if our property even at the level of LTR has been encroached on? What we still have there? What can we work with?
What I want to add, my famous Dom 4. Dom 4
Yes.
is still there because I want to see Dom 4 when I go there.
Exactly. You don't even know what I stayed there or someone has encroached on it. You don't know. So when we talk about stock taking, these are the things. And when we have those records, it gave us the opportunity to say, look, we know what we have on hand. We have bigger than this, but here we are now. So we'll try to work with the little that we have. And I'm telling you, as a pastor of the LCL, when Bishop Sianklo took over, I don't think the issue of stock taking was done. I'm saying I don't know. I stand to be corrected. But I remember in Phoebe, on the Phoebe compound, we had this reconciliation or pastoral get together, and Bishop Emeritus Kula from the Methodist Church had come to visit us. Bishop Siankolo was there. There was this question posted to Bishop Siankolo and all pastors listening to this my Lutheran connection. I stand to be corrected. Who attended that meeting? We were there when a question was posed to Bishop Siankolo by Pastor Young. All of you here will know Pastor Young, a retired pastor, former veteran Lutheran pastor who is retired now in the Southeast. Asked Bishop Siankolo, what was the church benefiting from the lease in the back of the LCL compound, those properties? Because by then the issue of wanting to rent the current LCL compound was on the board. And the old man said, if you tell us what we currently benefit from, those property in the back will give us clue as to whether we want to rent our current compound or not. Bishop Siankolo could not give a full explanation about those properties. And the old man said to him, I still remember the old man's exact words. The old man said, we need to sit on the old map to be able to plow the new one. The fact that the old one is still confusing, we're not prepared to make a decision on that. So those are what we're talking about when we talk about stock taking. So Bishop Padmore need to understand all of the different things. The stock taking need to know properties that we currently have on lease. How much are we benefiting from those properties? When are those leases going to be over? What we still have that are not leased. All of those things will put him in a better position to know how we proceed. So when we get to some of those events, when we get to some of those conventions, and people say, oh, how much money we're making from this? The bishop will just be able to say, look, our property currently on the back of the compound, we get only maybe $1,000 from that property after every 4 months. Everybody will know what you're talking about. But if we don't do stock taking, the bishop will be standing there and stretching his head and be wondering, oh, I didn't find this. So it's necessary. It's not an audit, but it's necessary to know where we are, because where we are will help us to know where this church goes. And there are a lot more things we can do that are easier for us to do. And I want to say to all those listening to us, there are things that are so easy for us to do. And the reason why I want them to know that it's easier for us to do, if our brothers, for example, the 7 days Adventists that are far younger than us can be doing it, we can do it. If our brothers, our partners, the Methodists can be doing it, we can do it. If our ecumenical partners, the Episcopalians, can be doing it, we can do it. It's just about assuring ourselves that we are ready to go for it, and we're going for it. The other time I sat with a couple of our pastors who were having this conversation. Do you know how many Lutheran pastors that got master's degree that are willing to go back to the classroom to teach for little or nothing? They're just waiting for the opportunity to be afforded them. They will make their time. Look, take our current pastoral listing, and those people have gone to good schools. They have graduated. For example, you got somebody like the former dean of Morovia District, the Lutheran Church in Liberia. Orita is currently in Morovia. Orita Miller Davis is currently in Morovia with 2 master's degrees. What do you think the church needs? She could be a very good teacher. One from the University of Liberia in education, one from the United States of America, Luther Seminary. You got Janice Goodnow, who got 2 master's degrees the same way. sitting in Morovia. Don't you think she can teach? You got mothers, they say, sitting there with a master. All those people are ready to go to the classroom to offer our church the services for little of nothing. You got Dr. Jala,
Right,
Thomas,
right.
all those people, you know.
I know if we give you the time, Reverend, you will go on and on. And I can see, I can see how passionate you are about this, and you've been able to really shed light on some of the practical reasons why stock taking is important, like those areas, those properties that you named, the Tower Hill. To tell you the truth, the Tower Hill is one of those good properties that are well situated that the Lutheran Church can make so much money from. But in terms of what's happening to that property right now, I have no idea. And there are similar properties like that across the country that we can reference. And I'm not sure Bishop wants to start by not having an understanding of how those institutions are being handled, those properties are being handled. That's a very good example. Jerry, can we go to Abel there in Monrovia? From there, we'll come to you, Jerry. Okay, Abel.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Joe. I hope my internet will allow me to kind of articulate what I want to say on the line. There are a couple of I think we can interpret what the bishop actually meant when he talks about taking stock. One of the way I'm thinking is that all of us, most time, we tend to kind of on the boat to say things maybe we are not informed or we do not have information about. I want to have that, and somehow these people had things here. We left so much behind. We left this money in the bank. We left so amount of property, and they were not all those kind of a thing. I was like that the bishop have where people get to know exactly what is within, but at the same time also helping the persons by going out so that people also get to know what they left on ground before leaving. Because if we leave all of these things just like 5-10 years possible, and the past administration lets us amount of money, and the incoming administration have one way or the other tamper with, or maybe have this amount of property and the incoming administration to take. They will say that happen. Maybe incoming administration as in order to protect it. So to leave all of these speculations, the bishop, I believe in his wisdom, he's saying, look, we need to take stock, not necessarily now taking over from. Why not by taking from you to take care of? Maybe to, if we take stock, we got to know exactly how much money have been left by the past leadership that this new administration is taking over from. How much is it? If we also take stock, I guess the bishop wants to know how many of our assets is in a better position or is better off, or let's say that we can immediately use. If we take stock, I think the bishop is also thinking, how many land do we have across the breadth and length of the republic? How far these lands are being secured?
Absolutely,
In terms of
Abel.
encroachment.
Sure. Abel, I just wanted Jerry was showing something from Adolphus that is quite important. Abel, I'm sure you'll be interested in it too.
we can maybe
Do you see
utilize
that?
agricultural purposes or other.
Okay, Jerry, I think he's trying to say that the church received some money for the Tower Hill property because of the rubber fee road
Yes,
construction work.
loan the Tower Hill for construction of the. Okay, this is what.
So that is an example, because that if this is true, then it was done by the past leadership. This is something that the current leadership will want to
Yes,
know
I'm
about.
talking about.
And the only way they will know
If we
is
just
by taking stock.
know
Yeah.
the status.
Okay, Ibe, can you hear me, Jerry? Are you there, Jerry?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
His
Okay.
wisdom when he talks, he wants to know the essence that we have.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, guys. Okay, Abel seems to be
Our,
coming in
for
a little
instance,
late.
the Tower Hill
Abel,
property
we
that
got you on the
talk
essence
about
of the
for us,
bishop,
right?
you know,
Please know
wanting
that
to
we
undertake audit.
have the Tower.
I think Abel's network
Yeah.
is extremely bad. Yeah.
Yeah, the network. Yeah. So Jerry, you can just go ahead briefly. We are like 4 minutes to being here for 2 hours. So I think we will have to try in the next 15 minutes to wrap up. So Jerry, you want to talk about that? Start taking a little bit, and then from there we all can try to wrap up. I think we've had a lot today.
Well, I mean, many things have been said already by all of us, uh, and we all agree that it is the first step, that any leadership can take, and so that is something that would be strategic for this leadership to consider. And I think our conversation with the bishop, he clearly stated he found a nomenclature to say stock taking and assessment. And
Yep.
so that is something that is on his mind. And that is something I believe that needs to happen. It's just that Joe and Rabbi Yabazo, I want to say that we should stop begging the question. Uh, I listened to Father George, Sonny George, when he mentioned, too many things we are suggesting and popping up. It is good that we pop them up now so that the bishop could be able to, consider that his stock taking, and then he will prioritize the priority. I'm not too sure the bishop will want to have a wild goose chase. What happened, and I think he was trying to reference what I said initially. What happened, I think the bishop is trying to uh, just re-emphasize the point that he needs all talents. You understand? Be it in the medical field, be it in the legal field, be it a teacher or whatsoever, he just need all talents to come to help to make the church go further. And he was asking what he think what would be the clear objective. We're talking about education here, and we will need some of those doctors, to try to see if they can go back and lend some of their services, even if it's on a pro bono basis, to some of the university students that will be there. So, I mean, why it is true that he got the zest and he got the passion for it, but we need to take into consideration that I know the bishop and his team will prioritize their priority. But Joe, we cannot overemphasize this. It is important for stock to be taken, however way you call it. For us, we were blunt on the show. We call it audit, and we were suggesting that there is a need for some external team, to come up. And for me, I like to be clear, to call a spade a spade. But the bishop said that I mean, all options are open. So they're going to consider whether, looking inward or looking outward, but trying to see how they can be able to take his stock in his own word, and then we can be able to move from there. So, Joe, I think it is important for the bishop to do, and a lot have been said about it, and I'm
Right.
not too sure that we need to all emphasize this now.
Right. Right. I think we all share some important lights on this. The insights were very good. So basically, we've been able to touch on many of the things the bishop talked about, except communication, reconciliation, and unity in the church. And we all know that he emphasized those as key priorities of his leadership. Reconciliation and unity. He didn't even want to think that there is a deep divide in the church. He feels that people were just divided based on the elections, and there are some differences people
But
have, but not so
Joe,
fundamental. To
Please, on the issue of communication, I know we're closing now because of the time, so we may not take all of the issues. But specifically on the issue of communication, I think you were one of those persons who headed the process of the Luther FM, so that we cannot have it been speculated. Um, I just want you to throw a little light on why maybe St. Peter's, for example, did not accept, if we could put it that way, for the Luther FM to be hosted in the building that they have. So we cannot have, Councillor Collet was talking about us not speculating, which is true. But again, we try to chase after the fact. And you were one of those individuals on the committee. It's good that we get a larger public to understand, so we cannot be speculating that St. Peter's, did not want this Luther FM to be hosted in whatsoever building they have. Could you chime in a bit, throw a little light on it, so we have it? Was it an administrative issue that was not clarified? What was actually the situation?
right. I think basically the project failed when St. Peter's halted the construction of the tower that was supposed to host the transmitter, because we had already secured the agreement with the technician, and the technician had already secured the equipment needed to set up the tower. And we had come on a Wednesday to start the process for the technicians to start the setting up of the tower that would have hosted the transmitter rather. And when that happens, we had to move over to the bishop, the then bishop, former bishop, Siangolo. I think the failure was due to the lack of the will of the leadership, because St. Peter's is the seat of the bishop of the LCL. And the fact that the bishop failed to have St. Peter's allow the hosting of the transmitter, that led to the failure of the project. That's what I can say about that. The other details about St. Peter's interest, all of those would have become moot had the bishop taken the decision for the tower to be hosted at St. Peter's. But the bishop also had other options to provide a building at the LCL compound where the transmitter will be hosted and where a studio will be set up to whatever correspondent building that he would have provided, his leadership would have provided. Other parishes also suggested that they wanted to host the radio station. But like I said, the administration did not exercise the will. There was a lack of will on the part of the administration for the setup of the radio station. Otherwise, by now we'll be talking about having a Luther FM, because the people in the church were upbeat. They were really excited about setting up the radio station, and they would have gone any length in terms of providing the resources needed to set up the radio station. I can say that for fact, because I headed the committee, and we went so far and so fast in mobilizing some of the resources. Whatever happened to the resources, I think The pastors will talk about that. Reverend Davis, I'm sure the account was under the Monrovia District account, and they were the signatories to the account. I have an administrative style, an administration style where I don't easily get involved with bank details, bank activities. I said, but if it's private, it's something mine. I was never a signatory to that account. The records are there; they show that. So they can really speak to that aspect, the financial aspect. But what I do know is that we were able to mobilize the initial resources that was supposed to get the transmitter set up, the tower up and running. Aaron Colley, I mean, some of the best brains in the church, Neswa Livingstone, Abel Liawali, veteran journalist Aaron Colley, they were all on that committee. Samuel Daplo were on the committee. I mean, we came up with very good concept paper with a very good technical document that lay out everything that was required for the radio station. And I think the bishop doesn't have to go anywhere looking for something else. Because those documents are there, they exist. The concept paper, the technical document that we need to be able to help us set up a functioning radio station is still in place. And once the will is there, I know the will is there. The Lutherans, they really want it. The bishop is going to succeed with our project, and we are here to support that initiative. That is why we told him on the show that those of us from the Lutheran Connection, they mentioned we are here to support him with the communication project, make sure that we have a good communication regime that will support all of the development initiatives of his leadership. And it's not going to be about him, about promoting his leadership. It's going to be about making sure that the right thing is done for the LCL, that Lutherans have access, which is the most important thing. Access to healthcare, access to education, access to all the schemes that are set up to support the pastors. And the best way we can communicate all of those developments is through setting up a very good and effective communication system, which we all try to do to support him. In fact, to take the lead, we have set up the Bishop's Hour on this show. You are aware of that, Reverend and Jerry. Every last Sunday in the month, we will be hosting the bishop, or his designee, who will come here to talk about development initiatives of the leadership. And I think that is part of supporting the leadership efforts to delivering upon the mandate of Lutherans. So basically, yes, I appreciate the fact that you wanted me to touch on the Luther FM project a little bit. So that was the only thing. We didn't have the will from the bishop. The bishop did not demonstrate the will, and that's why the project failed. Because we can be going back and forth and seeing, oh, St. Peter's high interest, Eswazi. All of those things are second to the bishop's, decision. Had the bishop said, or even start with the leadership of St. Peter's to say, hey, this thing has to go on, the project was going to happen, because they were not going to reject the bishop's plea or the bishop's request. So it was basically the lack of will on the part of the bishop and his leadership to ensure that the radio station was set up. So it was a failure of the past leadership. We can squarely say it was a failure of the past leadership. Okay, so that is it on the communication side. So on reconciliation and unity, we all listen to the bishop. I mean, he did not bite his tongue about that. It's something that his leadership is going to take on. In fact, he's going to do a tour. We all heard him. He said that he wants to physically meet with the people, because that helps in the reconciliation process, and not just want to meet with representatives, people representing parishes and preaching points. He wants to make sure he go there, interact with the people, sit with them, and talk about the concerns that they have, even though he can solve all the problems, but it will give him an idea of what decisions his leadership can take to help address some of those issues, which is crucial in getting the support of Lutherans across the country and in the diaspora to support his leadership. So basically today, Jerry, we have been able to talk about education, talk about communication, talk about taking stock. We talk about our healthcare institutions. We talk about reconciliation and unity. So we were able to touch on all the aspects that we discussed with the bishop when he sat with us on the show here. We are very happy that we're able to provide an opportunity for Lutherans again to share lights on, in terms of their opinions, their thoughts about what they think about the bishop first comments when he sat with us. And we're very privileged. The bishop used our platform as the first platform. This is historic. and it will go down in the history of the church that his first public comments to the church, both in Liberia and in the diaspora, he made them right here on the Lutheran Connection TV. I think it's something we should pat ourselves on the shoulder for. But equally so, it's a challenge to us now. It's a very big challenge to us to make sure that we can take this further to a different level so that we can support the leadership in this endeavor. It's up to you, Jerry, to do a formal closure.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you to other colleagues who were with us, but I think for some reason left, and also Reverend Yagwazu. I think for the last 1 to 2 hours, we were able to expand on all of the issues, and yeah, I would just want to basically say that the Lutheran Connection is a platform for all Lutherans, and sometimes we stimulate discussions, and so that we get
we are the triggers,
the kind of the kind of information we need. And I was so very happy that Councillor Jerome Colette, we call him Brother Jerome. By the way, I met him today. Yeah, don't mind me. I met him today. He was at the program, and we talked. And it was good that he actually shared some light with us on the issue of the policy, and other issues. And I just hope that we have the time, Joe, to get him on. He has volunteered to do that, and I think he will have a lot to share with us when it comes to this issue of the school system, and even further enlighten us on how we can be able to to modify the policy to get the university on board. And today I also spoke with Councillor Bobby Livingstone. He also said that he's willing to be a part of the Lutheran Connection. He took some keen interest in it. And some other professional colleagues, Geduo Zuba, many of them, they have all already pledged, to come in and give, their own view, their own perspective on how they think the LCL, this time around should evolve. And I think it's very good. The Lutheran Connection is
Revy and Jerry, sorry, Jerry, I said Jerry, you should close, but this just crossed my mind, and let me let it out. Other leadership did not have this opportunity that they have now. What's the opportunity? This platform to help them trigger the issues. Other leadership did not have that. During the last days of the last leadership, I thought that they would take advantage of this opportunity, listen to us, sit with us, and really get the feedback from Lutherans, because here you get real feedback from Lutherans in terms of what they feel about the performance of the leadership in the different areas. So this is a great opportunity that Bishop Padmore has, because here he is able to see, he is able to listen to the feedbacks that come from Lutherans, both in Liberia and here, and that can help to inform policy decisions a lot. So that's a blessing that he has, that his leadership has. And the past leadership during the last day had that same opportunity, but I think they just did not take advantage of it. Yeah, there was total lack of interest.
Yeah. So basically, Joe, thank you so much, and I want to say thank you to Reverend Yapazo for the time, and I'm very sure that again we will try to make all effort to get Brother Kokoya back with us, so that we can discuss. And don't forget, Sis Naomi have said that she would like us to give her the opportunity to have some series on number of issues that
Sis Naomi, you mean the former GS?
Yeah, the former GS. I mean, this is the platform for all of us as Lutheran. We will give them the opportunity as and when necessary, so that they can be able to provide what they need to provide for the hearing of the general populace, Lutheran populace, so that they can be able to interact with them too. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
the former GS has said that she will need a series with us. So we'll try to arrange that as we're putting our plans together for July and the subsequent months, because we want to bring a lot of different spices in. We want
Yeah.
to get the doctors to come to talk to us on
Prior to
health
that,
issues.
Jerry, I think probably somewhere late August we can think about the former GS, because for now we have Dollar, we have Brother Colette, and I really want us to bring Jesse King to come and sit with us. Jesse King with somebody from Aliyah
Yeah,
to sit with us on this whole university arrangement for us to have a very
yeah,
good conversation about it. So we already
yeah,
have three guests lined up. So
yeah.
let's see late
And
August to
Bobby
see if we
Livingstone
can.
also later on. Yeah,
Yes, yeah, we can think about what Brother Livingstone can come and talk about. But
yeah,
absolutely, we got it lined up. Is a clouded list, and then don't forget in August, the last Sunday is exclusive. We are having the bishop. Again, after his
for the
rounds, we're
bishop.
going to have the bishop here on the bishop hour. We cannot compromise that. The bishop hour is something that is cast in stone, so we can compromise that by all means. So let's see
Yeah,
when we can bring in the former GS, but the list seems to be really, really exhausted for now with a lot of
yeah.
things lined up, the critical things lined up. Revin, and don't forget, Revin, she gave the benediction. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble, Jerry. So don't close the show without Revin giving the benediction.
Reverend, please go ahead.
Jerry, I saw the beautiful pictures from the retirement program today of our two beautiful mother and let's I would say our mother and a grandmother. I appreciate that you made it possible to be in Monrovia. That was excellent. I missed just by seeing the picture. I missed the time, but again, I'm grateful for their service to the Lutheran Church in Liberia and to the St. Andrew family. They've done a lot in molding the minds of great people all around in the Lutheran community today. And I will also add up to the list by saying Joe Jared. I think we should also think about bringing the Bishop Emeritus, the retired Bishop, D. Jensen Sianko. We can go after him. And when I mean go after, it's not in a negative form. It's just to say I showed the bishop now that his schedule is far less busy. He might be having some time to. We just need to just talk to us, flip conversation about his time as bishop. Now that he's not bishop, what are some of the different ways and he see things being there and being other there. I listened to the bishop and watch him do the eulogy at his mother-in-law funeral, and I heard when he said, "I bring you greetings from our bishop, G. Victor Padmore." He said in the eulogy there that I'm saying this because if this have happened 5 months ago, I would say I bring you greetings from the Lutheran Church in Liberia. But I'm no more bishop. We got a new bishop now. So I bring you greetings from our current bishop, G. Victor Padmore. And that was so sweet to hear from the bishop emeritus. So we should also be looking into a way of getting him to come and sit with us as well to talk about his experience as bishop and being out of there, what he still see for this church and stuff like that. And we 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 need to give folks the opportunity, like Father Colette, Bobbitt, and the rest of the folks to come here and just have a chat with us. I want us to we talked to the GS already, but one question I wanted to ask you guys that could look a little bit funny. We understand that the bishop is emeritus already, the former bishop. We understand that the GS is emeritus already. So what happened to the office of the treasurer? Is the treasurer still on board, the former treasurer, or do we have a new treasurer? I didn't hear anything about that.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay, Jerry. So, well,
Yeah, I have no idea, and if I should say anything regarding hosting the former bishop, this is what I would say: the former GS is wanting to appear, and her former boss also. You are suggesting so. and our list is so exhausted for now. We might not even do that possibly in August, this July and August. So I think they both of them should confer. The GS should confer with her former boss to see which one of them can appear maybe a month and a half or two from now. We can take one of them. It's good to ask the bishop, but it's also good for the bishop to come and have some introspection, or have some reflection on his past leadership. If he thinks that the platform is important to help him do that, he should be willing to talk to us, so that we can grant him that opportunity to be able to do that. So necessarily is both sides. As much as Reverend you're suggesting that we should contact him, I think he should be thinking about that too, as much as his GS wants to appear. So the both of them should confer and make a decision who should actually appear. The GS have been here before. I didn't sit with her. The other folks sat with her. I don't know what is triggering the interest in coming back, but it's important. She's a stakeholder. She's a leader of the LCL. We should be able to host her anytime. But because of a space constraint and time constraint, I would think that the two of them can confer, the former bishop and the former GS. And if one person, because I'm not sure they're going to say anything different about the past leadership, we're going to be asking them about it. So one of them can come in to sit with us and have the conversation. That's what the platform is for.
Okay, with that said, well, I think I'm done from my end. And Jerry, I pray you enjoy your time in Monrovia. It's good that you're back in the motherland, Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Goodbye to everyone.
Okay, folks. Bye.